And we'll admit everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining for the last session of today of the International Student Career Development Summer Series. I see that we have a couple of returning students or alumni who've been on some of our other sessions as well, so welcome back, glad to have you. This session is going to be a presentation about one of our career interest communities. This is the Public, Social, and Human Services, CIC, as we call them. So we have several presenters with us today who are going to be covering this topic. My colleagues Beverly Johnson, Natalie McIntyre, and Jenna Figueroa. So just a couple of quick items before we get started. All participants are muted, but I'm keeping the settings so that you can unmute yourself. So if at any point there's a good opportunity for discussion amongst participants, feel free to click that little microphone button to unmute yourself. You also are able to use the chat function throughout. If you have any questions, you can just pop those into the chat function at any time. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to my colleagues, Beverly, Jenna, and Natalie. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Brianne. We're so happy to have you all here joining us for our presentation today for PSHS. Let me go ahead and share my screen so you all can access the presentation. Okay, perfect. So like I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about public, social, and human services. So basically, we're here to help students explore and prepare for experiences they need to get the next steps for careers in PSHS. So today we're going to cover a variety of topics from exploration in PSHS, how your major is going to support you there, as well as the resources and services we have available for you all in progressing through this CIC. So we're going to start with a quick introduction just as we have a smaller group. If you wouldn't mind posting in the chat box just a brief introduction, your name, your major if you'd like, your hometown, maybe a fun fact, any or all of the above. And then myself, Natalie, and Beverly will introduce ourselves as well, so you're not in this alone. All right, well, you all are submitting your answers. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jenna Figueroa. I'm a career and industry specialist. I actually majored in education when I was a student. And a fun fact is that I have oddly neat handwriting that was made into a font. And I will pass it over to Natalie.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna. My name is Natalie McIntyre. I'm also a career and industry specialist. And my hometown is Phoenix, Arizona. And I would say a fun fact, as well as my undergraduate major, I was a music major and taught music for a little bit before I transitioned into higher education.
I did not even know that about either of you, so I'm learning a lot. My name is Beverly Johnson. I'm also a career and industry specialist. I'm from Glendale, Arizona, which is technically just outside of Phoenix. I also lived half my life in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I would say a fun fact about me is that I grew up spending my winters in the coldest place in the United States. And then I spent my summers here in Phoenix from the time I was 10 until I was 20. And I think that made me really adaptable as a person.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you both for sharing. So it looks like we also have someone here from China. They're an outdoor person, urban and environmental planning. Awesome. And then we have somebody working with WP Carey from Mexico. Awesome. And let's see. And then we have one more person working in higher ed, and they have a background in theater. That's one of the coolest things about higher education is people have backgrounds in all kinds of fields. Yeah, thank you all so much for introducing yourself. It just helps us know a little bit about who we're speaking with today. So again, like Brianne mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to utilize that chat feature. So moving into the value of a degree, this is something that we really like to touch on because a lot of times students and alumni have this idea of, oh, if it's not directly related to my major, I can't go into this career field. And that's just not true. Rather than thinking about what can I do with my major, think about how can I market the knowledge, skills, and experiences that this degree brings me. Because you can be, a planning major that's really interested in a variety of careers, right? If you are a social work student, yes, you can be a social worker, but there are so many other avenues that you can explore too outside of just that major. So really take the time to think about what are the skills and experiences and knowledge that I've gained through my major that are really applicable to a variety of careers that interest me. With setting that kind of as the preface for what we're going to be talking about today, next we'll dive into the career development process. We like to touch on this a little bit because we want to make sure that you all are aware it is cyclical. This is not something that we just know or really master at any point. We're always kind of growing in this area. We start with self-assessment, which is understanding what your interests and what your career options fit are. So again, this could be based on your education, skills, and experiences. Next, we move into research. So knowing what it takes to be competitive, especially for the opportunities that you might be interested in, and thinking, okay, how can I be developing these competencies moving forward so that I'm a strong candidate for opportunities? Then we move into experience. So do you have enough experience to get a position in your field of interest? Or is this an area where you need to start finding opportunities to gain experience? And then we move into implementation. So thinking about what is my search strategy? Based on my self-assessment, the research I've conducted, the experiences I've been a part of, what can I do to now implement this into a decision, whether that be a job search, an internship search, a career change, etc. So I would really encourage you to think about where you are in this process and know that once you implement your decision, then we move back to self-assessment and we start this cycle all over again. So keeping all of those ideas in mind of just the career development process and how your major can support you, we're going to move into public, social, and human services specifically. So this is basically an overview of the CIC. Know that within public, social, human services, it's very broad. It often encompasses helping professions. It's very people-oriented and has a huge public service focus. So anytime you are providing a service for a community or for other people, chances are it falls in public, social, human services in some capacity. It is a very large career interest community, so keep that in mind. So here's just a few examples based on our career interest community model. There are quite a few different career interest communities, and it's okay to have overlap too. So like I mentioned, we are in a major that's preparing us for a variety of careers. We can also have more than one interest as it relates to our careers, right? So you could be interested in communications and media, and then also public, social, and human services. So an example of this could be an English student who's interested in working at a nonprofit, working with the public relations team to meet fundraising goals. This is an example that's combining both of those passions with communications and media, and then also the public, social, and human services sector. So recognize that you can be involved in more than one CIC and seeing how they really overlap with each other. One thing we wanted to touch on too was some trending careers within PSHS. So this information was pulled from the US News Best Jobs 2020 report, and this report takes into consideration things such as salary, unemployment rates, growth rates, future job prospects, and then stress level and work-life balance. So as you can see, these are some of the top occupations that were listed as best jobs for 2020, and these are all within PSHS. And so as you can see too, some of these are very different. Like being a counselor is going to be very different from being an attorney, which is very different from being a patrol officer. And so just to reiterate that PSHS is very broad and it covers a variety of fields. So now one more activity. Please use the chat box to tell us what public, social, and human services careers that you might have an interest in. social justice, advocacy, lobbyist. That's awesome. Directly related to the CIC as well. Nonprofit. Yeah, that's great. Anything in the nonprofit world, in that service-oriented type of career opportunity is going to fall within PSHS as well. That's great. Public policy, awesome. We've got a lot of change makers in this group. Urban development, public park. Awesome, awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. That's wonderful. Keeping that in mind, we're going to move into how do you prepare for careers in public, social, and human services? What makes candidates stand out? So I just like to preface this of myself, Natalie, and Beverly, we are all really experts in this. We have done so much research in this space. We've talked to so many employers in this space to pull these tips and information of what employers are really looking for. And one of the things that has shown up so much through these conversations is the importance of involvement. So given that you are going to be serving the community in some capacity, it's really important to be able to show that passion and your commitment to serving the community. This could be through volunteering, internships, part-time work, on-campus involvement, just in some capacity showing that you are giving service to other people. It's always better to start early. Employers like to see that you're able to balance your academic coursework with your experiences. So if you haven't had the chance to get involved yet, now is the time. And then it's also important to participate in a variety of experiences. Don't feel like you need to silo yourself to one area. For example, if you're interested in urban planning, get involved in an urban planning work group. But if you're also interested in social justice advocacy or education or whatever that other interest might be for you, get involved there too, and know that that's providing you with a very holistic approach to service too. And then overall, you just want to make sure that you're able to display passion for an opportunity or for a mission, that desire to learn, because oftentimes your desire and willingness to learn can be more important than maybe the coursework you've taken. And then also professionalism. Professionalism is one thing that's really important always, but something we've heard from employers too, of making sure that you know when you need to be on or be at your most professional. So how do you actually become career ready? And I believe, is this where I pass it to you, Beverly?
I can take it, Jenna. Thank you. All right. So I just want to say, first of all, like from the comments in the chat, you are all in the right place. Public social human services sounds like a good fit for your interests. So Jenna had mentioned previously the importance of becoming involved. So these are some really great ways that we really recommend during your time here at ASU that you become involved in your community. So clubs and organizations. At ASU, there are literally over 1,000 clubs and organizations. So there's bound to be one that fits your interests. Please do take a look and see what really interests you in that. We're going to talk more about professional organizations and community service here in the next few slides. So I just want to touch partly on student activities. Student activities are a way to really get to enrich your college experience and kind of explore your interests as well. So we're going to talk deeper about that. Internships and part-time jobs are a great way to develop your skills and get you to be a competitive candidate once you get that degree. Study abroad experiences. You guys obviously recognize the value of that. And then class projects, service learning. These are non-traditional ways that people don't often think of that they've gained experience through their education. So there's definitely ways to highlight those on your application materials, as well as in your interviews to talk about some of the experiences that can make you a valuable candidate. All right, Jenna, you've got the controls, I think. Okay, so we really wanted to dive a little bit deeper into community service because it's such an important aspect of those who are interested in public, social, and human services. So volunteer work, my goodness, there are so many different opportunities and just a really wide variety of interests to explore, agencies, missions to work towards. So when you're looking for community service opportunity, really look for those roles that are going to build relevant skills or get you familiar in an industry that you ultimately may want to work in. Changemaker here at ASU is a great place to look for some of those opportunities. I think that we had mentioned, one second here, that volunteer match is another great place to look, as well as World Teach. They offer experiences for international students. And some other ways are those student clubs and orgs. So a lot of them do have a service component. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 as far as like getting involved in a student club and also doing some community service. And then of course, nonprofit organizations are almost always looking for volunteers. So you can find those opportunities just by seeking out their websites. Professional organizations. So these professional organizations came directly from our career interest community handout. There are a lot of them. This is just a small sample of the types of organizations that you may consider becoming involved in if you're interested in public, social, and human service. So some of the benefits of becoming involved in a professional organization, you're meeting people in the industry. So the people that make up these organizations are going to become amazing contacts for you for that professional network. And you're also getting firsthand industry knowledge. I know Jenna mentioned earlier that, her, Natalie, and myself, we are constantly researching, we're talking to employers, but there's really no substitute for getting that knowledge directly from the industry. They understand it at a much higher level than we ever could. So professional organizations, another good suggestion for building that experience. And lastly, I wanted to take just a little bit of a deeper dive into student clubs and activities. So a lot of times people don't think of these as one of these places to gain experiences. But one of the things I was actually just talking about in the last presentation that's really important are the global and intercultural fluencies. And so the more exposure that you have and the time that you spend with different clubs and doing different activities, the more you're really exploring different cultures, you're getting to know diverse groups of people. There are so many. ASU, I think, I'm not sure if this is typical of other colleges, but there really are. I feel like there's something going on almost every day that you could, explore or get involved in. Even now in a virtual setting, they're offering constantly different types of activities. So some examples are sporting events. There's Sun Devil Fitness offering courses you can take. We have festivals, tabling events. Career Services is constantly putting on different fairs, panels, and expos. And then there are ASU events. There's a page that you can check on periodically that have a calendar of events. Sometimes there's just like 3 or 4 in a day. So definitely stay on top of it. And then Sun Devil Sync. I'm traditionally at West Campus, and I know this is where we post all of our events. And I think between ASU events page and Sun Devil Sync, you'll be on top of everything that's going on. So all of that being said, we have another question for you. We're hoping that you'll share with us some ideas that you have for getting involved. Maybe you plan to join a club, check out a professional organization. You're hoping to do an internship or volunteer work or something else. So if you don't mind sharing in the chat what you have in mind, that would be amazing. Well, I think while we're waiting for the chats to pop up, we can move on to our next slide. And we wanted to give you guys some tips for these to really be competitive. So these are the best practices, and we did gain this information through speaking directly with employers in the public, social, and human services field. So the application process, definitely do your research, pay attention to detail, and make sure you're incorporating the elements of that passion. That is so important in the public and social human services. And then your accomplishment statements on your resume should articulate how you plan to bring change or how you've demonstrated the ability to make change in the past. There are trends and changes. So the culture of volunteerism, there is a lot of value for people reviewing your resume when you can show that long-term commitment to volunteerism. So while it can be challenging to incorporate, a kind of a long-term volunteer commitment, that does demonstrate a lot of value. Now, if you can't, commit to that, then definitely those short-term commitments add value, and they also give you like a range of experiences or a variety of experiences. So it's okay to have both. The long-term commitments do demonstrate just like if you're really passionate about something, that's a good way to show that you're really passionate about it. And then some general tips: definitely be action-oriented, results-oriented, and team-oriented. A lot of times people in PSHS are doing really hard work. It can be really challenging, and the teamwork and just being really action and results oriented and just really being incorporated into your team can help make them really positive experiences to be a part of. And then some last advice there is bloom where you're planted. So what we mean by this is to really take advantage of the opportunity in front of you. A lot of times we can get involved in something and then realize it's not exactly for us. And that's okay, it happens. But there is learning to be had in every experience. So in every experience, even if it's not the experience you thought it was going to be, there's definitely value in taking advantage of the opportunities you have in front of you, maybe honing in on some areas of challenge and growing in those areas, or finding a shred of interest in there that you didn't know you had. So that is what we have as far as just some best practices for the application process. And then some of you will be going on to graduate school, obviously. And so these are just some general practices for that grad school prep. Definitely know your deadlines for your applications in advance. You don't want to be surprised by that and then be rushing at the end. Have your resume or CV created early on. And this is something Career Services can help you with. That way, as you're gaining these great experiences and you're developing your passions, you're just incorporating them into a document you already created, and you're not rushing at the end to put something together. You'll need, of course, your official transcripts. You want to understand early what testing might be required for the graduate degree you're interested in, and do your prep work for that in advance and know, what your resources are. And then think about that personal statement. So for PSHS master's types degrees, they really do, when they say personal statement, they mean personal. Like, what drives you? What inspires you? Why do you want to do this kind of work? So that's the kind of thing you'll want to highlight in your personal statement. You can start thinking about that early on and kind of have an outline put together. And then ask for letters of recommendation as you go. That'll make it easier, because it's really stressful to be waiting at the end for a letter of recommendation when you have everything else ready. So if you do that kind of as you go, then you won't get into a time crunch at the end. Thank you, Jenna, for your navigation. We'll be passing it on to Natalie now.
Awesome. Thanks, Beverly, and thanks, Jenna, for sharing all of that knowledge. We want to jump at this point to look at some resources for job and internship searching related to public, social, and human services. So a previous session in this series, we did do an InterStride overview. InterStride is a platform for international students as well as those looking for international opportunities. And so we want to briefly showcase that to you here. We will have the recording of that overview that was done if you do want to dive deeper. But I also want to showcase Handshake as well, some of the filters that allow you to see employers and community partners who have sponsored in the past and offer CPT, OPT opportunities. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to show you how to navigate to InterStride, and then we'll move quickly into Handshake. So bear with me just a moment. So here I'm at our career.asu.edu site. To access InterStride, the easiest way I would say is under Get Career Advice and then Working Internationally. If you haven't been to InterStride before, once you click on the platform, as you'll see here, InterStride, it will invite you to tailor your profile a little bit and some other customized features. But once you do access the platform, you'll see this landing page here. And like I said, we did do a deeper dive into InterStride yesterday, which we will have a recording for. So today I'm just gonna focus on briefly two pieces that really allow you to search for opportunities in the public, social, and human services realm, and some filters you can use for that. But once you're on this landing page here, you'll see, and I love to point out the resources that are shown at the beginning. So you can see, and I'll just scroll down. These are daily updated related to your job search, your internship search, the current job market. Maybe things related to sponsorship, visa statuses, and things of that nature. But I'm going to jump into the visa insights here quickly. So here at the top, the second tab, visa insights is going to take you to an area where you can actually see organizations that have filed for H-1B petitions in the past. And so that'll give you an understanding of who's sponsoring previously and what types of roles they are sponsoring for. You're also able to search by OPT, CPT, and if they have offered opportunities in those areas. But what I'll quickly showcase is the filters. Here, you can either search by industry or company if you have seen maybe a previous organization that you would like to work for. If you want to see what types of roles they have sponsored for in the past, you can look there. So if I select industry, then you're welcome to look at various industries. So I would encourage you, look for those within the public, social, human services realm that you might be interested in. I'll grab one filter here to showcase how this feature works. So once you press submit, it's going to pull organizations that have sponsored within this industry. And so you're able to click on any of these organizations. You can see how many petitions they filed within this year. You're able to learn about the organization, as well as other links that can showcase more about the organization. But once you click on past sponsored positions, this is where you're going to get to see the specific job titles that they have sponsored for. So you're welcome to click on any of these to get more insight into, and you can see what types of roles they were. Here they provide urban and regional planners. They did sponsor for an entry-level position, so you're able to learn about that here as well. Once I go back, I'll also showcase to you You're able to look by company as well. Again, if you do have the name of the organization that you would like to look and see what they have sponsored for in the past. So I can switch that here. So whatever organization you're interested in, if you were interested in a government type role, you could look at different states, maybe even here, you could even look at state of California, but really anywhere you would like to look. I would encourage you to look at multiple organizations, multiple places. This one did pull one opportunity that the state of California did sponsor for, and you'd be able to click on that and learn about what that position title was to give you insight into what they may sponsor for in the future. I always like to say, keep in mind the current job climate with COVID-19. Different organizations may have different policies in today's market. So absolutely take some time, and if you can, go to the organization's website to learn more as well. Lastly, on InterStride, I'd like to just point out the jobs feature. And so when you click on jobs, this is going to give you the opportunity to look for jobs, and it will pull from organizations that have sponsored in the past. We do like to preface this saying that we highly recommend you look on Handshake first, as this search engine does pull from a variety of sources outside of InterStride. Handshake, we are vetting all of those opportunities and in approving those employers. So just to give that preface, we always like to mention that first. But quickly, I'll just demonstrate. If you wanted to look at US jobs, you'd be given the choice. You could look at the top 500 H-1B. You could look for a title. I've previously, I know some of you have mentioned different opportunities you've looked for. You could type any of those keywords in. And that's going to pull organizations that have filed petitions and sponsored in the past. Again, please do your research for each specific opportunity and what types of sponsorship they do offer and opportunities. And this will take you to a variety of job postings within this industry. So I'm going to move actually into Handshake as we wrap up the presentation today to showcase a couple filters that you can use as an international student or somebody looking for international opportunities. So once you've logged into Handshake, there's a lot of things you can do within Handshake: schedule appointments with our office, as well as see upcoming events like this one, workshops, career fairs. But we do have our job and internship board, and we have thousands of opportunities in here. So we highly recommend that you use the filtering system to your advantage to sort through opportunities that are of interest to you. A couple filters I'll just mention briefly. Here you can look at what type of job you'd be interested in. But mainly I did want to point out the work authorization filters that Handshake has recently added. So you're able to filter by organizations that will sponsor or don't require a US work visa, as well as if they accept OPT and CPT here. But I also highly recommend you look based on industry, specific job function, even major, that employer preferences, or even a specific employer. Maybe you see a company on InterStride and you want to see if they've posted here on Handshake. You're welcome to do that as well. So for our particular industry here today, if you were interested maybe in the nonprofit fields, you're welcome to click on that. And that's going to pull all the opportunities that match the criteria you put in. And I would encourage you to take a look at what's pulled. I'll click on one here. These are a variety of geographical locations. You're welcome to filter by that as well, however. And I would encourage you to look again at the organization's website to learn more about not only the position, but the organization itself. So those are just a couple tools. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. But at this point, we do wanna move into any questions that you might have related to our presentation, related to preparing for opportunities within this industry, as well as any of the tools that we talked about. So if you'd like to use the chat feature or unmute yourself at this time, we do have a few minutes here to answer questions.
Natalie, I just wanted to add that we did recently publish a couple of different blogs that highlighted some virtual volunteer opportunities and even some teaching abroad type opportunities. So if anybody's interested in those, if you want to post your email in the chat or send your email to me privately in the chat, I'd be happy to forward those your way so you could take a look at them.
That's great. I think that's such a great thing to consider is volunteering. I know, Beverly, you mentioned Volunteer Match, World Teach, but there are a lot of opportunities here in the States as well as abroad to get that experience, which is, like we mentioned earlier, so highly valued in public social and human services. As we're waiting for any questions to come in, I would encourage you, I know I showed our website at the beginning of when I started sharing, career.asu.edu. Feel free to look at resources we have on there. You can also schedule an appointment with our office via Handshake. And we'd love to chat more if you do want to talk about any application materials, the job or internship search. We'd be happy to follow up in that way as well. Thanks, Claudia. Thanks for attending.
Alrighty, well, I just want to thank everyone once more for this wonderful presentation and for attending. And again, I'll be sending out a link to the recording sometime next week, so be on the lookout for that. And everyone have a great rest of your day.